Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It's Wednesday morning, flying solo this morning. Well, I got you guys, of course, so I'm hoping as you guys chime into the stories and stuff, we'll move fine along over here. Back to the good old days of flying solo in the morning with some scheduling conflicts this morning, but it's Wednesday, so world's greatest dad is in effect as always. And fair warning, by the way, this is with going to bed ridiculously early last night. I ended up waking up in a ridiculously early time. So this is actually the second cup of coffee. So since it's the second cup of coffee, it could be a bit more jittery than usual this morning and a bit more hyper than usual. So we'll see how it goes. Good morning to everyone. Well, good afternoon to Sparky because he's on a totally different time zone. Where are you now, Sparky? He's always on the move. The Where's Waldo of American Scouser fans is Sparky over here. So let's get to the headlines. Obviously, I only have a few that I want to cover. The transfer stuff is a hot mess. So I don't know how much I want to get into that because as I was looking at the headlines this morning, kind of like to see what we want to cover and what we want to address. Back in Cornwall, but back in Phoenix in November. So we'll be back to Breakfast Sparky probably in November then. Until then, it's like your afternoon delight over here. So we'll definitely go to the touch up on like the transfer news. But like I said, as I was trying to find out the headlines, like you can find totally conflicting headlines within the same hour from different sources. So I don't know where to go on this one. You look at one source that the Andre thing is pretty much settled, and then you see another source within the same hour, actually older than the other one, saying like we're kind of like walking away from it due to the release clause is more than what we thought it was. But then I saw another one that it was between us and United, and the player wants to come to us. It might be until January anyway, so it's not like an immediate ordeal. But a lot of conflicting stuff over there. Ryan is with us this good morning, and Alan as always. Good morning to everybody. Like I say, we'll get to the headlines over here. But before we even get there, actually, I kind of like want to touch up on this. Probably don't do a good job of this, but I did want to emphasize it today because if you're only following us via podcast or YouTube or even on just on Facebook. I do hope you do visit the site as well. I know we do put the links to the articles as they come out, but a lot of good stuff coming out on the website right now, almost daily, I would say. So we have the article by like Todd and talking about the Saudi league. I think it's like a really great take on will it make it, what we should expect out of it. I know we talked about this here before, but it's a good perspective there. Harry, who's brand new to our site, was writing for This Is Anfield as well, but he's moving to this side of the ocean shortly, so he'll be joining us. His piece on tactics with the high line is a great go-to and highline 101 for people who don't really understand, because sadly there are a lot of people who do not totally understand what that highline is, how that works. And John and the morning show fans are familiar with, and his pieces on like some of the fonder memories we have of the club era so far. So a bunch of good stuff on the website. Please go ahead and take a look. And then you can obviously comment and interact and stuff over there as well as social media. Also, by the way, we are almost at 500 with YouTube. So if you're watching us, listening to us, whatever the case might be, please take the time to send it to a friend who can hopefully send it to another friend, and hopefully we hit 500 soon and more to come. This really, I'm really excited about this year in American Scouser with our pre-match, post-match, all the content we have. Tonight we do have the Premier League panel show going on. We're going to have an Arsenal guy and a Tottenham guy on at the same time. So I'm kind of looking forward to the fireworks that are going to come out of that and the banter that's going to be thrown back and forth. So make sure you guys tune in for that. So let's get to some of the headlines, because there's not a lot, but I think they are very, and I really want to get your guys' take on it, because there are a lot of them that have different layers to it, I guess, to put it mildly. So let's go with that. Let's start with the MacAllister ordeal. So the red cards, we do the appeal, because I know we were talking about the frivolous thing on Monday show with like the Polish prince. So we do win the appeal, and the red card is no longer. So this obviously brings the question that when we do the appeal and people with common sense and eyes and maybe no agenda, I don't know, like which way you look at that. Is it competence? Is it conspiracy? Whichever way you look at it, the red card is rescinded, which is huge for us, I think, because it feels like finally we have this midfield formed over here with Endo, who I thought had like a really good show in the first game despite the circumstances. So it's a huge thing for us. I mean, Sparky says it's a great result. Yes, I wasn't expecting it. I'll be honest with you. I thought they were going to be kind of like doubling down on their decision. And even Ryan is like, did they fate do the right thing? Yes, it's shocking because I honestly did not see it happening. I thought they were going to be like, yep, studs are up, about the foot. What are you going to do? Unlucky. And kind of like go with it is what I was expecting. Maybe that's like the cynic in me. But so glad to see that that went our way. But it brings the question of VAR, which, I thought we were almost over with, right? When it first came out, we talked a lot about VAR. Do we like it? Do we not like it? I personally hated it. These dogs hated it. So it was not a good deal overall. And I don't know, because I know some of us are older than others. So I don't know. It's not like, it wasn't necessarily being like a traditionalist thing, like they're bringing technology into our game kind of a thing. But it really took away from the overall joy and the stuff you get from like scoring a goal, getting treats for these guys, as opposed to hold on, we're waiting for VAR to celebrate and get treats mode. Sparky says, do I get my you know what, that is a great question. That is a great question, but not to me. That's a great question for the fantasy nerds that are going to be on tomorrow night, Gally and the Polish Prince, because for somebody, don't get me started on fantasy, man. Do not get me started, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to do it this year. I'm going to stick with it. Like week 1, it didn't happen. Week 2, I'm like, oh, good. I remember that there's a Friday game. It was 45 minutes before kickoff, and it was somehow already shut down to make any changes. So I believe I captained Gakpo 2 weeks in a row. So I didn't even look at the final result, but I can't see it being very good. So yeah, do not mention fantasy to me. So let's go back to VAR. I know on Monday Night Podcast we were talking about it, and I know Victor would like to blow it up. Yala was like half on board with it as well. Number one, I think we all know that it's not going away. It's here to stay. If anything, we're adding more and more technology into our sports, and we should. It's there. Why not use it? And I don't think it's going anywhere, and it shouldn't go away, because I kind of over time got more and more used to it. And as it corrected things, I felt like, well, you know what? Good thing we have it. So it was nice to have. The problem is how it works and how it's employed. So it's not really the concept of having VAR. It's how we use that VAR and how it's like implemented. And I really feel like they have shot themselves in the foot with doing this clear and obvious thing, which was very unnecessary. Like even this weekend, in that red card situation with MacAllister, why did it go to Tierney? Why is it ends up being Tierney's decision? It should not be Tierney's, because let's face it, if it's clear and obvious, if I'm telling you, get your butt over here, clearly and obviously you are wrong, well, that decision has to be overturned, right? I just told you that it's clear and obvious that you are wrong. Get your butt over here, look at this freaking camera, and change the decision. Why does it have to be that? Because obviously the VAR refs are going to be a lot more reluctant to do that. And we don't even know. I mean, it goes back to what Sparky's saying, need more clarification with decisions. I don't know if we're ever going to get that transparency. I'm hoping we do. Like we get to hear those discussions live or afterwards, one way or the other, for the sake of clarity and explanation, for keeping the game honest, let's say. I do hope we do get at least some of that sound so we can hear what's going on. But more importantly, why did we put this clear and obvious thing in there and not just make it a tool to aid the main ref in terms of getting everything right? Because we wanted it. Yes, we did actually with the Women's World Cup. But that's the thing, like, it's like there are a lot of good starts, and some leagues do it. Some leagues actually release the VAR tapes afterwards. But will we see in the Premier League, or will these guys? Because obviously we know even VAR came late to the Premier League, and you would have thought they brought it late because they wanted to make sure the kinks were worked out, and it came in perfectly to the most expensive and the best league in the world. You would think we would have the best refereeing. But going back to the VAR, I really feel like the whole verbiage and how it's used is what screws up the entire system. All this time, the refs always said, and we always said, oh, it's a tough job. You get the luxury of watching at home and seeing replays. These guys have to make the decision right there, right then. And fair enough, right? Fair. And if you refed at any level, as a volunteer, high school, fucking U9, I don't care where, yeah, sometimes you just don't see stuff. Sometimes it's blocked, whatever it is, like you're not going to get everything right. I don't care if it's a U9 game because some little kid's butt is in the way and you can't see the ball, who it bounced off of, hit shin and went to a throw in or whatever, right? So I understand the decision of stuff. There's a lot more pressure. There's like 50,000 people yelling at you, whatever the case is, but they're getting paid handsomely for it at the same time. So with money, with the pressure comes the money, with the money comes the pressure, whatever the case is. Why did we just not do it where these guys could use it as a tool and say, well, here, okay, like it's a tough job. You don't have the luxury of watching the replays. Good. Get your butt over here and now watch the replays. Like Tierney should be able to say, yeah, it does look a little like soft for a red, to be honest with you. Like it's just like, or harsh for a red, I should say. You might want to come and take a look at this. And that'd be enough. He would go. It's still his decision. And more than likely, it's a lot easier to change your decision, I think. Like our theory is overall, right? Everybody says there should be an independent VAR system. And I think the reasoning behind that for the most part is so that there's no buddy system. They don't want to make each other look bad and stuff like that. It's still your decision. I'm not making you look bad. I think I'm making you look bad if I say this is a clear and obvious screw up on your part, so you should probably fix it. I think that's throwing you under the bus a lot more than me saying, I don't know, man, you might want to take a second look at this because it does look a little iffy. And then I'll come and take a second look at this, and then I'll make the calls. Because let's face it, right now, I don't know what the percentage is, but when they are called to VAR, the decision is overturned, which is pretty much means the VAR ref made that call and told you to change it for the most part, because it's clear and obvious. So putting that language in there totally screws it up. It's not going anywhere. It was there to get the calls right. Let's just use it to get the calls right. It's not there to make the ref look bad, the VAR guy look good or bad. What it was there, it's there to get the call right, because this is freaking important. How some of these are not changed. Like you go back to, this could have cost us, right? This could have cost us points. And obviously, selfishly, we're thinking of Liverpool and Liverpool's bottom line, if you will, and our points. But you look at last week. Mind you, we're in week 2, and how many catastrophic decisions can we point out to within 2 weeks of the Premier League starting over here? There's multiple, so buckle up for like a brutal season, I guess. But you look at a team, you look at that game for United against Wolves. Wolves team that pretty much got robbed. Yes, exactly. We're getting there. Yeah, they cost them a penalty in the last second. That's a point. That's a definite point, assuming they make the penalty kick. It was the very, very end of the game. It's not like they're going to concede another one. It's not like United's going to score another one. So that's a point, right? That's a point that at the end of the season, a team like Wolves, who many were picking to, get relegated or at least be in the relegation battle, right? That could cost them relegation. That point at the end of the season might cost them relegation. From the first week, them being pretty much docked a point at the end of the season can cost a club to go down. And that's why it's important to get this shit right. And the system is there. The tools are there. You just got to sit down and figure out, how do we use these tools better? Trouble is Tierney doesn't believe he's ever wrong. But it's not even like, the theory over there, more than Tierney not wanting to be wrong, I think is like Tierney doesn't want Liverpool to be right. I think that's the theory there, right? Especially Tierney, or he doesn't want Klopp to be getting the benefit of the doubt, which possibly could be More than likely it is. But let's even take that out of the equation. Doesn't matter who is on that sideline looking at it. They should not be put in a position to now make the decision, because they got to determine that it's clear and obvious, meaning they're making the decision now. But that was not the system, was it? We didn't say VAR should ref the game. We said the ref should ref the game, and we want them to still control the game. VAR was supposed to be just a tool for them and to help them along to get things right that were maybe iffy or things that they missed. How we came here, it's almost like, how the hell did we end up over here? Like, it's just like, how do we get here where VAR is now being blamed for calls for not overturning them, similar to the Wolves United game that, like Sparky is mentioning. How do we get here? Why do we get here? More importantly, why can't we just use VAR as a tool for the refs to get another look? The only thing I can think of is, I mean, they can take a look and they're like, no, we're even close, dude. Keep going. Keep the game flowing, and we don't want the ref to stop the game every time and go to the camera. I totally get that. That was the initial part of the VAR thing. I did not understand. I did not like the flow, the waiting to celebrate, and all that kind of stuff. So I understand that. But at the same time, situations like this, a red card, a goal, and stuff like that, I think it's only fair for them to get to take a second look to make sure things are right. And it's not happening. A human error on the pitch and VAR. I mean, that should never happen, right? That should never happen. And I think we've made that happen by human error is going to happen, but a bunch of humans getting together, watching, everybody else is watching, and even the most fanatic fans of United probably will admit that that was a penalty there, right? And every commentator, every pundit, I didn't hear one guy, except, of course, Tim Howard, who I don't count as a guy with an opinion, said, and his opinion was that those are never called. So, okay, like, what is that? So what is that supposed to mean? Like, I don't care if it's ever called, if it should be called. If it's in the rule and it should be called, call the damn thing. That's what we want. Do we want shit that's never called to be never called again? Or do we want the decisions to get done right? That's what we want. The right decision made. Use the damn VAR. Use the camera if you need to. If you didn't see it, if you're in doubt, or the guy on the side says, hey, man, I don't know. If you looked at this from this other angle, you might change your mind. And, just do it. Yes, Pickford. Same thing. I would even say less of it, honestly. Like, in terms of contact and how much contact, because Pickford's arms are shorter, so he couldn't make full contact that Onana's freaking arms did when he slammed both of those guys down. They called a penalty. And you could argue, the ball was going towards the goal and stuff. The guy could, but the other one too, they were gonna probably tap it into an empty net. If somebody is not clobbering them on the head, he might be more alert to see the ball bouncing down and hit it in goal. So the inconsistency. But that inconsistency, I think, comes back to really, if it's not clear and obvious in that Onana incident, if it goes to the ref and ref gets to take a chance to look at that again, I really think they're changing that call. But this whole clear and obvious thing is well, they're not calling me, so I guess I'm not going there. Go there, dude. They don't have to call you. That's another tool. It shouldn't be just like your freaking linesman. If you're going sometimes to the linesman and say, hey, what did you see? This is better than the damn linesman. He doesn't elbow players, and he has multiple angles that you can look at. So why not use it? Assistant referee, right? That's the whole goddamn thing was supposed to be. Just use it as that. This, we are making it. Premier League has managed to make it a lot more complicated than it has to be. And I blame Premier League for making the system so shit. This VAR is not as bad everywhere else. So a lot of leagues use it a lot better than the league that spends bazillion dollars on players. Just spend it on this and get the system right. It's not even a money spend. It's get some people with brains in one room and say, hey, how do we make it right? How do we use this technology to get things right? It has to be a lot easier. I don't know. They're not even helping each other. The whole theory of them covering their own ass. This is worse. I really think this looks worse on everybody involved. Use it as what it was intended to be, another assistant referee that has freaking cameras that can show you different angles. Go make the goddamn call. Jesus. See, this is the second copy. That's where we're at. Okay, so that's where I'm at with the whole VAR thing. I have grown to like it. Not the, I guess, the concept and the stopping. The dogs still hate it, but I've, if it's getting it right, then that's fine. That's a good. I'm torn on this, so I would definitely like to get your guys' take on this. Would pitting a time limit in VR decisions be a better option? Say 90 seconds. I am kind of torn on this. I'll be honest, Alan, and I really would love to get your guys, other listeners' take on this. Because do we say we want the decision right, or do we say do we want the decision fast? If it takes you 95 seconds to get the decision right, take the freaking 95 seconds. I don't want you to come up with a bullshit result that is not, accurate just because you tried to do it in like 80 seconds. I mean, we already wasted 80 seconds. What's another 15 if it's going to make it right? You could argue that if it's taking you that long and 85 different angles to look at it, that maybe obviously you should have stayed as it was called or whatever. But at the same time, if the ultimate goal is to get it right, and that's why we have this, that's why we're already stopping the game. We're already, not able to celebrate or get snacks or whatever the case might be for the goals. At least the sacrifice should be for getting things right. That's the part of VAR I liked when, we would get screwed if we go to VAR or, either way. I mean, at least it's right. It is the right call. Sometimes the goal gets taken away from you. You're like, damn, man, that's close to an off, but whatever. It's the right decision ultimately. That's what I'm for. I know what Alan is saying in terms of the time limit, but heck, just get the decision right. Take as long as you need. You're already stopping the game. We've already changed the game where it's going to stop. The flow of the game is disruptive. I do like that they look at it a lot faster and it keeps going on like some of the calls and stuff like that. So the game flows a lot more. It's just like, let's get this clear and obvious bullshit out of the way. Let's use it as what it was intended to be, which is another pair of eyes on the situation, different angles. Let the guy in the middle have more resources to make a better decision out of. Is my ideal goal. Will it happen? When will it happen? I don't know. Going back to what Sparky is saying, I mean, ideally, yes, I would like to move. I would like to know what's being said and why certain decisions stick, some are overturned and stuff like that. I mean, I would like to know that. Sparky says works perfect for offside because no human error. I mean, even then, like the lines are drawn everywhere and stuff like that. I mean, I think as time goes on, we're going to get to a point where the offside is probably going to be like a goal line technology or something like that. I know it sounds like, oh, that sounds ridiculous now, but if I told you VAR 20 years ago, that probably sounded ridiculous too. So I feel like, 10 years from now, I don't know if I'll still be around, but hopefully we'll be able to talk about how the stick to television sucks about that, where maybe it's going to be like goal line technology where they call offside automatically. It's going to go and it's just like the dude is off or something like that. So that'll be interesting to see. But like I say, we are not going back. We're probably inviting more and more technology into the game. We're just making things a lot worse than it really has to be. Premier League is. I don't want to even like generalize it to football overall in this scenario. Really, Premier League is, which is really shameful. It's the best league in the world, doing the worst job in the world when it comes to that. Okay, so let's get to another topic over here that we touched on it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it tonight as well again on the panel, because we did talk about this last week on the panel show. I kind of wanted to get their guys' take on it too, and I would love to get like a United fan. If you know a United fan who would want to come on air and talk with us and get weekly abuse about 7-0 and stuff, yes, please send them my way. But we talked about this last week. Yeah, I know it's like a sensitive topic and stuff like that, but I think this is another example of one showing how money, bottom line, and stuff like that clouds good decisions, and two, how you can really make a mess of probably a simple decision that should have been done a long time ago, right? I think from the get-go, we all know, and you can deny it all you want, that if this stuff came up of about, let's say, let's stick with United, right? Let's say like a dude like Brandon Williams, or somebody like that, like somebody so young. I try to find someone young that is not keeping up to their thing, and they're like loaning him left and right. He's just not panning out. If it came up with Brandon Williams, I guarantee you Brandon Williams is gone instantly. And I think we all know this. And sadly, this is probably for any club. Let's not make this about United. And I'm trying not to make it about United, honestly. I think this is more like a ethics and a culture issue than a United Liverpool issue, or a United another club issue. I think if the player had no value to the club, especially financially, value-wise, on the pitch, I think this decision gets done right away, and he's gone. Right, the moment the video and the audio comes out, he's gone. So I understand. A lot of people are, on the fence about, oh, like these young kids get targeted and stuff like that. So I understand the whole, alleged thing of like doing things allegedly and stuff like that. Like you see rumors or accusations come out, players, and then they just disappear and stuff like that. Some are maybe made to disappear. Some maybe had no basis in the first place and stuff. But this is not the case on this. And that's why I think it's important that this is not the case on this. We have audio. We've seen visual evidence of what happened. It's being, and all this time, none of it was denied. None of it was said to be like, oh, that's not an authentic audio, or, well, that's a different photo, or anything like that. Nothing came over it. Imagine if the female complainant was a United player. And here's another thing that's, yeah, I want to get to that, but because I feel like United has handled this horribly. So, and I don't know if other clubs would handle differently. A better run club, I think, would. I think, not having good quality people in places has been United's problem, and long may it continue. But going back to the scenario, that all that stuff was never denied. The case was dropped. He was not proved innocent. The case was dropped because basically the state could not prove or get conviction. Obviously, if the complainant does not help the investigation, or collaborates the story, or corroborate the story, I should say, and collaborate with prosecution, it's not going to happen. So they dropped the charges. So it's not like he was proven innocent. It was the charges were dropped. So initially, they want to set the table for his return, and the women's team comes up, which is pathetic by itself. Almost, I'm offended as a dude that that your United is assuming that guys won't have a problem with this. But let's ask the ladies and see if they have a problem with this. Like, I'd be okay with an asshole pretty much raping his girlfriend or beating up another woman and stuff like that. As a guy, I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. He's going to be on the pitch. Like, what the hell is that? So that's offensive, first of all, that they try to dump it on the women's team. And then they put out a statement last week where they almost want to feel it out. And that was the whole point of that, to throw that out there to see what the fans would say. And thankfully, the fan reaction was, there was a lot of negative. Sadly, it was almost 50-50. Because I've seen some polls about, like, should he come back and should he be let back and blah, blah, blah. And it was sadly 50-50. I don't know who's the 50 that's saying yes, but that's a different story. But there was a lot of backlash, and United saw that there was going to be backlash, and it was going to be more negative attention being brought on than whatever he does on the pitch. I mean, look at what Zuma got for a cat. So I would hope to God the fans would pummel 10 times as hard for something like for a player coming back for something like this. Not that I don't like cats. I'm just saying, like, in terms of the offense, you would think there would be a lot of abuse wherever this kid goes, and rightfully so. We'll get to what should be or whatever afterwards. But yeah, I mean, going back to Alan's thing, like, imagine that, and it's just so mishandled. For them to even put that out there, I think is shameful, because basically if people said, yeah, that's cool, man, they're like, it's cool, right? Yeah, let's bring him back because he's a good forward and stuff. That should not even be a conversation. How good of a player he is should not be a conversation. His status should not be a conversation. I watched a couple of like, like online videos from like United fan clubs and stuff, and reading some of the comments. And let's not make this a United thing again. Some mentality in the comments saying like they need this. So it was a goalie. They were like, no, but it's a striker. So yeah, we need one. So let's bring him back. If that's your mentality, get the hell out of here. I mean, you don't belong on this earth, ideally. But that's what's disappointing to see, I think. And then they released this statement this week. This was Monday, literally right after we got off air. I saw this. Otherwise, we would have probably talked about this with Sparky says United waiting for VAR to overturn the decision. Yeah, I mean, oh God. I mean, that, they issue a statement, and in that pre-match statement, it says, and I don't understand, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to issue a statement where it says, all right, let's put it on the screen over here. This is the part that's most annoying to me. Based on the evidence available to us, because they basically said, oh, we did more investigating, more than the police did or the prosecution did. We have more information than anybody else. I mean, if you know anything about domestic abuse, there is a reason why the victim goes over and over back to the same person and stuff like that, right? We've seen it 1,000 times. I'm sure United's management is aware of what domestic violence is and sadly how it works in most cases. So for them to go to the victim and say, first of all, asking the victim if Greenwood should have a second chance is, I don't know if it's naive, not genuine for one, because what are you going to say? It's your spouse. So it affects your livelihood. It affects your life. And why would you say that? And which one is more realistic, by the way? And, sadly, probably every one of us knows someone or heard of someone or related to someone who has been part of a domestic abuse situation. Which one is more likely knowing that? The victim staying with the abuser after the, or somebody staying with a partner who falsely accused them of rape and basically destroying their career and their livelihood. Which one is more likely? So for them to come out and say, based on the evidence available to us, we have concluded that the material posted online did not provide a full picture, whatever that full picture is, and that Mason did not commit the offense in respect of which he was originally charged. So I guess my question to that is, if he is innocent, then why is he removed from the team? Right? Then that's not fair to Mason. But we know this is bullshit. It's almost like an agreement that Mason said, hey, why don't you guys throw out a statement like this? I'll throw out my statement saying, so it's like mutual, and then we'll kind of like, walk our own ways kind of thing, knowing that what the statement they put out last week did not pan out the way they wanted to. Let's face it. And if it did, Mason Greenwood would be practicing right now with the team and could possibly be playing this weekend. So, I mean, that's, I think, the sad part of the whole situation. And I understand a lot of people are saying, I kind of covered the whole, oh, he wasn't proven guilty thing, because then you're just kidding yourself. Let's face it. Based on the evidence we have. And based on the fact that, so this material posted online does not provide a full picture. I mean, what at the same, like, so it's provides a picture, and that picture is enough for me. I don't know if it's enough for you. I would hope that it is, but that provides enough of a picture for me to say, go to hell, get away from my club, because you are representing the club. So that goes back to people saying second chance. And I want to ask you guys, if you can be honest, if you can really, really, really put your own in that situation, if this happened to one of our players, would you want him to put on the Liverpool jersey again? Would you say they deserve a second chance? If they're a good player, apparently, because that makes a difference, right? Like if it's Trent or somebody like that, would you say they deserve a second chance if you're really honest with yourself? I feel like, yes, everybody does deserve a second chance, but not necessarily where they came back from. If you and I or anyone in our careers make a mistake, that's very costly. That screws the business, its reputation and everything like that. Do we deserve a second chance after giving so much to the club or the company? Yeah, but does that mean we're going to keep the same position? No, I don't think so. See, I disagree. Yes, innocent in the view of the law, innocent in the view of the law for what it is. Ryan says depends on the situation. Let's do the same exact situation. If you're a United fan, or this dude was playing for us, would you want it? I'm not buying the innocent in the view of the law thing based on what we've seen and based on knowing how domestic abuse works. So let's not kid ourselves. This is not somebody who said, "Oh, like he touched me at a bar," and then there's no evidence. We're like, is it like he said, she said? This is not that. Everybody heard that audio. Everybody saw the pictures. If you have not, and if you can stomach it, go look it up. And no one ever came this entire time and said, "Hey, that's not it." It's not convicted is not the same as innocent. And I think we all know that as well. Because he was not proven innocent. The case was dropped. And that's because the victim did not want to pursue it further. That does not make him innocent. Not in my eyes. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not Mr. Ethics over here, Mr. Right. I'm like, that's everybody's gonna have their own opinion, but I'm not buying that. I actually call BS on that, Sparky. I think that's a very, very naive way to look at something, knowing what we have. If they came out from day one and said, "Hey, this is fake and we're going to prove it," but nothing, all this freaking time. Now, oh, we investigated further and we're still not saying, United is still not saying that that thing is not genuine. They're saying it does not give the full picture. Come on now. I think we all know in this situation what happened. And if you're kind of like saying no, I mean, then what is it gonna take? Like, is he gonna rape like on public TV so that we're like, okay, well, we all saw it. No, we all know it for sure. I mean, we have audio, we have pictures that were never denied all this freaking time, still not denied. It just doesn't give the full picture. So I'm not buying it. And like I say, yes, everybody deserves a second chance, but that does not mean that second chance comes in the same form of the chance they blew. Um, and that's, I think, like the bigger things. Because I hope for the day when all of us or none of us are judged on our weakest moment, but judged by how we acted out in our second chance. And that's why it goes back to the second chance. I'm not saying he should never get a second chance and like we should hang him in like the city hall, but the second chance, getting second chances does not mean you get the same chance in the same exact spot, because most of us would not, right? Most of us would not get that second chance. I would say maybe like all of us, if we did what happened, because you represent the club, you're putting their shirts like it, basically you're affecting the business as well. Yes, you do have deserve a second chance, but definitely would not be in the same position. Obviously, in pro soccer, it's different. It's not like he can be an assistant football player and then get promoted back up to where he should be. But and not to mention like the media attention and the negativity he's going to bring to the club. And I guess the bad part of this thing is, and I understand that angle for the second chances. I don't know where he would get a second chance. I don't see any club in Europe giving that opportunity. So I was going to ask you guys that actually is like, if he does get a second chance, where do you guys think that would be? Because I don't think any club in Europe is going to want that negative attention that they're going to get from their fans, because they would get it from their fans. There were a lot of rumors, for example, I'm the Turkish one, so I can tell you guys that it might be like going to Turkey as one of the options. Yeah, Anand says no club wants that sort of negative publicity, because before he even like holds the shirt, there'll be protests and they'll be gone. Ryan says maybe Miami. I mean, that's the main issue. I don't know where he would get a second chance. Even in Turkey, I almost feel like it would not be in one of the big clubs, just because it would be the same thing. And Turkey is a lot more horrible in domestic violence. I can tell you that right now as somebody from Turkey. Nowhere even close. Maybe that's why I'm so like more familiar with the legalities and all this kind of stuff, because a lot of bad shit happens. But even then, before the player comes, that audio will come, because it's a file and it travels a lot faster, and those pictures will come. And see, that's going to be a lot of negative that even a club in Istanbul like Fenerbahce or Galatasaray or Besiktas, I don't think would want. It's not worth the. You are not getting Messi. You are not getting, I don't know, give me like a top player that, like you're like, well, he's definitely going to make an impact though. And this is a good question. This is what I want to ask you guys actually. Anan says, watch a Saudi offer comes in, and Alex says it would come in. Saudi, they don't have a exactly for that reason. Would the Saudi league even want that? They already have this connotation about that. Would they want that? Uh, like if it was first of all, if it was Thiago, he would not be healthy, so his doctor's report would come before even those files come, so let's not even go there. But I don't know if the Saudi league would want that in terms of um, the negative attention that they already have. Like everybody already says, when you say the Saudi league, everybody always says women's rights and stuff. Why would you bring a guy in to kind of reinforce that almost, right? That's why I feel like a Turkish Greek league smaller team is probably a lot more likely option for him. I don't see any of the other top leagues even wanting a piece of that. Ryan says all of us make mistakes. The Jew doesn't mean forcing yourself on someone. Didn't Keita have a scandal? Like for example, the Keita one, right? There was a rumor. It never materialized. It became a he said she said. Like she called someone and stuff like that. That story came up, and obviously initially we don't want to believe the story, maybe unrightfully because it's our player and stuff. But you got to listen and see what happened because we really don't know these players, do we? But I think it goes. Nothing came off of it. So, like, yes, do we, go after Keita for that? No, because we don't have any information. We do in this one, and that's I think where the difference is. We have audio, we have photos that were never denied, and now you can come back now and say, "Oh, that's not the full picture, and I was never convicted for it." But it's a picture, isn't it? And it's sound, and they were never proven to be like doctored, not real, blah blah blah, nothing. So I think that's how I make the distinction, I guess. It might not be the right one. Like I said, I don't expect everybody to agree. That's kind of like my take on it. That's how I think this case differs from somebody saying, oh, like this happened. And then we always say it's alleged and they're saying it. And sadly, if it's a douchey player, maybe we're more likely to believe it than if it's like a nice guy on the pitch and stuff like that. That's probably unfair. Not probably, definitely unfair as well. But that's not the scenario over here. We have a lot of evidence that we could not pursue and prosecute because obviously the victim went back. And I love how the people are like, oh, like, yeah, she went back. I mean, she got raped. Do we not know anything about domestic abuse that we're like, oh, she wouldn't go back? I guess, like I say, I go back to the scenario of which one is more likely. If this was not true at all, please give me one reason if that you would go back to somebody. And we will have crazy girlfriends, and some of us maybe had crazy boyfriends at one point. But would you go back to the person that basically destroyed your career with something fake? Why would you? Sparky says NFL players get away with it. I mean, sadly, a lot of people money get away with it, but it doesn't make it right, does it? Ellen said Keita got injured trying. Man, you guys are wrong. You guys are wrong. Realistically, probably just has disappeared from soccer world for a while and wait for people to forget. I mean, yeah, but this is soccer. It's not like, like, oh, I'm going to go to a different industry. He's not going to start playing basketball. I mean, where is he going to go? Like, really, like if you're HR and the resume hits the desk and it's Mason Greenwood, I mean, I don't know. If anything, he could. I mean, I hope he has rehabilitate. Like I say, I'm not buying this mistake thing because that's not a mistake, and this is not the first for this kid, by the way. Like, he has a history of being the arrogant jerk. I know, like Kazi was talking about, this is probably a whole episode of how we sometimes maybe go after these young kids and stuff like that and give them a big head, but at the same time, after a certain time, you're not a young kid anymore. If once you can put ink on that contract and once you're making ridiculous money, you're responsible for it. We were talking about earlier about reps getting paid and the pressure and therefore the responsibility. I feel the same way. If you're able to get 10 million a year, then you know what? You're going to be responsible for what you do. You're not a kid anymore because you're making the money. Act like a pro. You're getting paid like a pro. You have to act like a pro. I don't care what age you are. You got to grow up. Can everybody do it? Obviously can't. They're their family, their support system is important and stuff like that. So this kid could have issues. He might need help. I mean, he definitely needs help, and he might get that help, and he might make a better person of himself. I mean, ideally, hopefully, he would just actually not make a career out of it. It's probably not the right way, but I hope that he would use this to kind of go around and talk to other young players that were like him going on, and then go and kind of like teach other people how not to get into these situations and how not to do these things, or how not to, I mean, obviously he's going to talk about domestic violence, I would think, but also about how get into fame early and stuff like that, how to handle it, and how to be a man first, be a star player afterwards, I guess, because this is not a star player thing. This is just being a man and being a decent human more so than anything else. I'm guessing the reason the victim has received on this abuse and threats which persuaded her to drop the case. Yeah, I guess that's an aspect as well, right? Because I mean, that's the bad thing is like I see those comments where people put soccer and a final score in a game above a human, or ethics or decency, I guess is another word for it. That's disappointing, I guess. I mean, you look at that and I find that extremely disappointing. So it kind of like Red in Horror. Maybe because I have two girls, I would kill the asshole that did anything close to it. So I wouldn't wait for United to do shit. But maybe that's why I'm like more sensitive than a normal person. Like we were talking with my brother who has a son, and obviously I'm and a United fan, mind you, on top of everything. So he's double whammy. But um, maybe that's why I feel a lot more stronger towards it. I don't know. But either way, yeah, it's disgusting when you read some of the shit that people say. It's like, really. Ryan says, first off, good on United. I'm sure this happens more than we know. Honestly, I don't know if we give a lot of credit to United on this one. I would have if they initially said, yep, no, man, we don't want you anywhere near this club. You can't, wear this badge. We don't want anybody with your history representing this club. And I would be okay with that. Putting this on that's the part I don't like. Putting this kind of little bit on the women's team first and say, let's see what the ladies say initially, and then put out that statement last week to see like, what do you guys think? Let's say hypothetically we bring him back. How pissed off would you guys be? Kind of a statement. I think kind of like eliminates the whole what they did last week. And even when they do that, to say what they said, the way they presented it. And I know they sent an email to their shareholders that detailed the investigation a bit more and stuff like that. That kind of like explained it a bit more than this. Because really, this doesn't make any sense. He's not guilty, but he's gone. I mean, that's even worse. Because if he's not guilty, if you know something that you're saying he's not guilty, then, well, share it with the class. And then we'll all know he's not guilty. And then, we can kind of reevaluate how we think things. But when you say, oh, that material is not the full picture, like, what does that mean? Like, what happened after the rape that should make us feel better about what happened? I would love to know who the guy who wrote that statement, how he's looking at this thing overall. So that's why, Ryan, I don't know how much credit I give to them, because sadly, I think we all know that, like I say, I just came up with Brandon Williams, but I'm sure they have other like scrubs in their youth system, young players that they thought were going to be good and did not pan out. I guess, they did at least eventually made the right decision. Some don't do that. All of this sucks. It does suck for everybody. Nobody wins out of this thing. And that's one thing that we were like going back and forth with my brother on, like, not giving him a second chance. Who wins? He doesn't definitely win, right? Not getting a second chance. Obviously, she doesn't, because it's not like the situation is going to get better in that relationship now that he's not employed and probably will not be able to find employment. We're assuming in a favorable situation, let's say. and obviously doesn't have United, right? But is it like a win for overall human and male decency? I don't know, right? And that's where we're like kind of at. And I think it has to show. Will it show another player? I mean, will somebody who's an asshole and an abuser going to look at that and be like, maybe I shouldn't abuse because United's not going to give me a second chance? No, but at the same time, that doesn't mean somebody who does it should not face the consequences. And, you know, when we know somebody is doing it, we shouldn't look the other way, regardless of what they do, how good at their what they do, how much money they make, how important to their company and stuff like that. We should not look the other way. There should be some consequences. Maybe other young players will look at that. Somebody else will look at that and say, hey, you know what? There is a consequence for being an asshole. I agree with Sparky in terms of like, yeah, some people get away with it, but just because some people get away with it does not make it right. Where we can make it right, we should ultimately, I guess, is where I'm at. So long way of getting to that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys like kind of like providing the feedback. Because it is, and it's totally okay to have different opinions. Like I say, it's not like, you know, I'm Mr. Ethics, I'm Mr. Decency over here. Well, I'm Mr. Decency overall, but I know about I'm Mr. Ethics. But so that's probably like what I want to cover mainly is kind of like how I look at the overall deal, more about like how poorly it was handled and what should happen in the end. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I know I read yesterday about some rumors, but that was just like media, like, oh, there's an available player, let's link him to the Turkish team kind of a deal. It'll be interesting to that. I mean, transfer news, like I say, I mean, this morning as I look at everything, we're linked to 4 or 5 different left-footed center backs because that's the new catchphrase now. So there's a bunch of reporters Googling left-footed center back so that they can just create some rumors. And then kind of conflicting stories about Andre and stuff like that. I am happy with the whole, obviously, MacAllister thing. I would still like to bring another midfielder because as much as Anand is a Thiago fan, I don't know how Thiago and Basetic are going to come back. I think our hope is this Endo, then it's Basetic, right? Or, you know, they can probably flip-flop. I think that's one thing that Endo brings. I was initially concerned about the age of the player we signed, but I think he gets the benefits a lot more and the confidence from fans, probably as well as his teammates, as opposed to bringing a, say, 22-year-old young Japanese dude that's doing really well in Germany. I think we're bringing somebody who's a captain, who's a leader, who's responsible, probably knows how to carry himself, speaks English, can blend in, and kind of like do a job and do it well, do it professional, as opposed to bringing somebody in because you know the mistakes I think are going to be a lot more tolerable and understandable and stuff like that because of his experience, and you expect him to kind of recover better. Otherwise, I think fans would be a lot easier to write him off instantly when he makes a passing error and stuff like that and build up play or some shit like that. So great debate, says Sparky. I hope so. I mean, like I say, I don't want to come out as like this is the right way, damn it, and everybody should agree. So it's definitely great to get different takes on that whole issue, the VAR and Greenwood. Since I was flying solo today, I was actually going to a editorial on this, one or both of these for the YouTube channel, but I was like, hey, I'm flying solo. And honestly, like both the Greenwood thing and the VAR thing, I don't know if I could do it. So I would try to do those editorial videos about like 5 minutes or so. And obviously, you know, we get the feedback and stuff too, but it's not a conversation that takes 5 minutes, especially like the whole Greenwood thing and stuff like that. Midfielder and center back will make Ryder really happy. I'm okay without the center back. So the midfielder will make Rai happy then. Hold on. To make Rai happy, we can do both things. Wait, midfielder and center back, but he's okay without the center back. I think I agree. I think we're on the same page there. I would feel let's say it this way. If I had only one, I think I'm going for the midfielder. And then if you need to bring somebody left-footed center back in January and stuff like that, I'm okay with that. Having said that, I mean, yeah, Ryan is happy with the midfielder. I agree, Ryan. I think we're on the same page over there. I think I would feel a lot more confidence. Look, fans are never going to be happy. Whoever plays for Van Dijk is going to get always the blame. Whoever, so that's just the way it is. Especially because they will be replacing Van Dijk. It's going to be like, oh, if Van Dijk was there, Van Dijk has not been his best. I actually think he is a lot better than last year. He's gotten a lot better back in form. But whoever we get is always going to get the blame for what happens in the back. Things might look better with a defensive midfielder in front of him. And so I'm pretty confident. I'm really optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Let's make that cautiously optimistic. Let's just throw like optimistic out there. But I'm a lot more cautiously optimistic about this Newcastle game than I was without Endo or without that midfield. I think we saw what Szoboszlai can bring, and I think he will only be better with MacAllister next to him as opposed to Gakpo next to him. And I would really like Gakpo where he should be, up top in the middle. So that's my lineup. And if you look at the offseason of a rebuild of a midfield with Endo, which I know is a stopgap, but Endo, MacAllister, and Szoboszlai, that's a pretty darn good rebuild and good quality for some years to come, except Endo, obviously. So you add like a player like Gravenberch to that thing, I'm happy. This window was never going to be a 10 just because we were not ready to go to the season, the beginning of the season, and we already lost points, I feel, because of it. I know it wasn't fully our fault or whatever, but because of the Fabinho and Henderson situation. But yeah, we add like a Ryan Gravenberch or somebody like that to that equation. I feel like that's a pretty darn good offseason. I know there are a lot of question marks with center backs, especially nobody being behind Van Dijk, but I think Konate can fill in on left when need be. He has done in the past in like League Cup and stuff like that. And we gotta have. I have not given up on Gomez. I feel he gets way too much blame for what he has done, and Matip is Matip. So we can play both games and like take the good of these guys and then leave the bad. I think that will be the next part of the rebuild, is probably improve that back line. I feel like in depth we're good up front in terms of age. This offseason, for the most part, really addresses the midfield. It will be the back. The Moroccan Amrabat, I'm assuming. I'm okay with that as well, I think. Just depth is what I'm after, really. Somebody else who can play that position. Because if something like, because if Endo gets hurt or Endo gets a bad red, then we're back to square one, right? So I just don't want that situation. I just want somebody, and that could be a project player. That could be somebody younger, ideally, that can eventually take his place. I know we're grooming Beşiktaş to take that spot, but I'm really hesitant on getting too happy about young players too early as well. So that's where we're at with that. If you look at the rumors, God knows we might sign 10 left with the center backs by the end of today. So I actually have a feeling that nothing else happens at this point. I would not be shocked if nothing else happens. We have a week to go over here, so maybe we'll get a surprise, but I can also see nothing happening and we're rolling with it and Klopp saying we're good. We'll take a look at it again in January. So I will be back tonight with the panel. Fulham, Arsenal, and Tottenham. Fans will be with us. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about the Greenwood thing, and there'll probably be a lot of conversation about the refereeing. It'll be interesting to see what Jake says, for example, about the call in the United game, if that was a penalty, and how they think VAR is going. Because obviously we look at it from Liverpool point of view, but there's been a lot of. I mean, Fulham got screwed this week as well, so I'm sure Alex is not going to be happy about that. So it's great. Good banter and great to hear like different perspectives from these guys. I really enjoy hosting that show. So we'll be live tonight at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. Sparky, you will have to get up like 2 a.m. to tune in, but you should. It's well worth it. As always, thanks a lot for keeping me company this morning. Give us a like and a subscribe, and please pass the word so that others can join the ranks and join the conversation, because the more the merrier. So have a great day, everybody. See you guys tonight. Take care.